Hi, welcome to Trenchometry. If you've spent any time in or around the trenches, playing offensive line isn't just blocking. It is chess at light speed. You're controlling angles while a 280 plus pound defender tries to destroy your running back. Every snap, calculating leverage, mirror footwork, and anchoring against pure violence. Miss one step and your franchise player gets flattened. We're here to discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game of football, the offensive line. Remember, you master the trench, you win the war. My guest today had a storied high school career as a first team All State, first team All East Texas, an All District player, an East Texas Super Elite Team nominee, and the Longview News Journal Offensive Lineman of the Year at Kilgore High School in Kilgore, Texas. He would go on to Missouri Southern State University and excel on the field, garnering all conference awards there as well. He has made a few stops around East Texas coaching offensive lines and offensive coordinating, and now he makes his home with the Spring Hill High School team in Longview, Texas. Please welcome Mr. Colby Rosen here to the episode today. Welcome, Colby.
How's it going?
Glad to have you, and so excited to talk football with somebody from the great state of Texas.
Right. Glad to be here, Coach. Appreciate you having me.
This is phenomenal. Okay, so let's start off a little bit. What's your philosophy about offense? What offense you're running? What are you trying to catch the defense up and doing? And I'll give you that as a starting point.
So, funny thing about that is I'm a power spread guy. Always have been. Split zone, counter, power, a little bit of stretch here and there. But I took the O-line job at Spring Hill this summer, and we run the flex bow.
Okay.
And so we're running triple, mid-triple, midline, rocket toss, and it's a whole different shooting match. But I was a little apprehensive getting into it, but I think moving forward with my career, I'll take things from triple option and kind of include them in stuff that I install offensively. But it's been a learning situation, and I've actually enjoyed it. Never thought I'd be an offensive line coach in a triple offense, but here I am. But if you were to ask me what I want to run, it would be spread.
Okay, so contrast that a little bit with your spread, your power background there with the option. What are your two different schemes? And obviously, they're two different schemes. They're going to require your offensive lineman I mean, some basic differences. What would be your biggest difference that you'd point to between what you would like to do with your power spread situation and the triple?
Just the type of offensive lineman personnel wise that you really need in this offense is, it's not your 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 280 plus guys, guys that look like defensive ends or linebackers that can run. So that was a learning curve for me, having, smaller guys up there and quicker guys and being able to get away with it. Our center is probably 5'10", 205, and we're playing 4A football in the state of Texas. That's really unheard of, being that size and being competitive. So that was a little bit different. But as far as scheme goes, I've incorporated, GH counter, some GT, power read, reading different guys, zone read, triple option stuff, speed option, and married the two together to just vary it up a little bit. And before I got here, they threw the ball maybe, 2 or 3 times a game at most. And now we're averaging 15 to 20 passes. Last night we rushed for 400 and threw for 300.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've had about 2,000 yards of offense the past month. And so, I mean, it's working. The kids, they responded well to it. And that's the whole thing, is they've never really had any good coaching. Get a staff in here that knows what they're doing, and you can win some football games. But as far as scheme wise, reading somebody game plan wise, if they've got a dude over there that I don't feel comfortable with soloing somebody up with, hey, let's read him. Let's run midline. Let's run triple, mid triple, whatever, zone read. And instead of putting a kid at a disadvantage, trying to block somebody that has no reason blocking, just let's go ahead and read him. Still trying to figure out how to get RPOs involved in it, so I get first and second level reads.
That's a little bit more of a little bit more practice time. Off-season stuff, I think, is where you kind of can incorporate that. And once you get your quarterback understanding what he's looking at, it's hard to do that in season and practice all the option reads and where your eyes need to go. And I ran a triple here where we are down in Florida, and 26 years. And when I came in, I was kind of a power guy as well. And those solo blocks when you got to block a three technique by yourself with the guard and you're reading the five or the nine outside of it. That's a hard thing on the guard to have to be able to do. And so I kind of did the same thing. I incorporated a couple of power ideas with a like a bump wall style block, what we would call in the old days a bump wall, where we'd come down and punch the three and then get up to the next level. And even zone blocking a one technique. The center and the guard, whenever we get a one, we would zone block it. I wouldn't like, why not rob Peter to pay Paul and get that guard off with more leverage on the linebacker? So we did kind of marry some of those skills together, and it puts defense in a bind if you can get that guard out on the Mike backer and take the best player, the best tackler off the field on the defense because you got a guard that's got leverage on him. It's a heck of a thing for a defensive coordinator to have to overcome there. So
Absolutely.
you touched on this a second ago about the personnel difference, the size difference. So kind of go through what you're looking for with a power offense. You know, you're walking the halls of the high school or going to a Pop Warner game or a middle school game and you're checking out what the upcoming talent looks like. What is it that you're looking for player wise? Kind of talk about tackle, guard, center for your power scheme, and then we can get into that about the option scheme as well there.
So my stereotypical tackle body is they're kind of the bookends of my offensive line. So ideally, somebody that's, 6'3" plus, 260 plus. It's the high school level, so you kind of gotta work with what you got. But I'll put my longer kids at tackle, especially left tackle if we got a right-handed quarterback, somebody that moves pretty well and can set an edge. I want that to be my best athlete out of the five. Then right tackle's just a bigger. Then that being said, guard, they're a little bit shorter, a little bit heavier. 6'2", 260, 270, 280 if I've got it. If not, 5'10", 230-pound kid was going to have to work. Perfect world, if I could handpick who it was, my tackles would be 6'4" plus, guards would be 6'2", 6'3" plus. Then my center's the anchor of the offensive line. He's 6'2" on a good day. Is a good complimentary guy on combos. He's not the road grader your
Mhm.
strong guard is, but he's a good supporting cast. Smart kid. I'm biased towards centers because I was a center. So yeah, so I'm especially hard on those guys. Guards and centers kind of 6'1", half dozen the other, about the same body style, but definitely's got to have a voice. Communicate at the line of scrimmage. Got to direct the ship. But again, if it's perfect world scenario, they'd all be over 6'1". But this like what I've got now. I've got I think three kids that are over 6'2", and none of them are even sniffing 300 pounds. They'll get after it for you. They'll run through a brick wall, and you just gotta work with what you got.
I found myself putting my in the option scheme, and ironically, you talk about size. In 2001, we won a 5A state championship in the state of Florida, and my left guard was, if he had 5 rolls of quarters in his pockets, 175 pounds. The center was maybe 205, maybe. So we had some tiny guys, but we run that triple. So, all we had to do is kind of get in the way. Had a very good running back that could move. So if we could just occupy those guys for a little bit. But I found myself putting my best run blockers at guard. I kind of got away from size dimensions, and with the option, I was putting those best run blockers at guards, and then my better athletic ones, and it didn't matter what size they were at tackles because I needed tackles to be able to move and get down and help that three and get out of the way. I needed the guard to be able to take that three. If the guard can solo block the three, we're going to win. Doesn't matter. We can turn the ball over 5 times. If we're solo blocking threes with guards, they can't stop that triple option for us. That was kind of my mindset. Is that kind of how you find yourself, or do you do something different?
Yeah, I mean, guard wise, spread offense, I want a guy that can, if he's on the backside inside zone, he can handle a 2-eye by himself. So he's got to be a good run blocker. Triple wise, I mean, if we run a lot of midline and veer, so your tackles, you can veer them up to second level. You don't got to worry about them blocking a 5 technique or anything, or 4. But if you run mid triple, your guard's got to base or into a 4 down. Your guard's got to be by himself more than likely on a 3 technique. So it's the exact same block, just going the other direction. But that's the good thing with running an option offense is you can kind of hide guys. And like I was saying earlier, if you can't block them, read them. Go. triple and veer release both guys up to second level if you don't feel comfortable leaving them soloed up or the half of a combo at the center. Shoot, or just run away from them and scoop everything backside. Just get them down. That's one thing that I look for in an interior guy is for my dudes at guard. How does he handle a 2-eye by himself? If he's got a 3 technique and they're on the backside inside zone, he's got help coming from the tackle. If that's in his play side gap and that tackle's still coming with him, but he plays a gap, he's by himself. So can we flatten it out or can we get puncture the guy and get vertical displacement or not? That's a big one for me. That his ability to pull, flat pull, get kickouts on counter, and then skip pull and wipe on power. How does he move without having to have a strong side and a quick side? When I was in high school, Bobby, we were under center, power, inside zone, counter, and we flipped. So we had a strong guard and a
Mm-hmm.
quick guard. And I always thought being a high school kid, you don't really think about it, but it's like we're creating huge tendencies on where we're running the football by flipping
Yeah.
these guys. So,
Yeah.
if you can get 2 kids that can move, quick out of their stance, can get down the line of scrimmage and keep a good landmark and be effective on a kick out or if they got to log something, log it. That's, your kids you want at guard just because I'm a big counter guy. So if they can't do that, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. You mentioned veering your tackles. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's for triple option coaches. This was something I had to toy with. I had to mess with the footsteps here. How do you teach your tackles with a 5 technique? How you want them to veer release? Talk me through that real
So
quick, because that was something that took me a few years, but I figured it out. I'm curious to how you have it, how you teach your guys.
So if they've got a 5 technique on them, I tell them to step with their inside foot first, north, get vertical with their inside foot, and bring that second step as tight off of that 5 as you can on his inside shoulder, and try to scrape paint off the 5 technique when you're going up second level. It's really just a best release. Like if you were telling a tight end, hey, you're running a search route or whatever, work a best release off the line of scrimmage. That's essentially what it is, as long as you're an inside release, because you're not gonna outside release a 5 technique and expect to read him, but just best release. And those kids, they have no idea what that is. They've been O-line kids their whole life, so you got to work it. But if we can step, place or backside foot, get vertical with our first step, and then bring our second step and basically step on the guy's outside of his inside foot and scrape paint and get vertical. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. I would call it a cha-cha step. I literally want them to just pick it up and put it down, because for the way we were originally taught, and this we use a Carson Newman old style Carson Newman style offense is how we were running. So it's a no mesh veer. We were taught vertical step with the outside foot first, and it used to drive me crazy because the 5 technique would be pushing a tackle down, squeezing him down into the hole, and it was a dirty read. It was a really dirty read for the quarterback. So I call it a cha-cha step, where you pick it up and put it down. And then the next step, I call it a J step. I was trying to get my guy to swing his outside foot and land behind the inside foot of the 5 technique if I could get it. So you say scrape and paint, it's kind of the same concept, but I kind of wanted him to slide, twist his shoulders, and give him some pressure so he could slide that outside foot and actually replace the inside foot of the 5 technique behind him going up the field. We found some success with that, but my problem was that I needed something. I needed that inside foot to be down on the second step so that they could push off and resist that pressure, that topside pressure on their back. And it drove me crazy for years, until I finally was like, we got to change this. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep watching my techniques get pushed.
Yeah.
5 technique pushing my guy down and making the read dirty and clogging things up. That's kind of how we used to do it. And we had big splits too, Coach. I don't know if this might make you
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable. We had 6-foot splits.
We're about 4 foot, and I thought we looked like Mike Leach, Texas Tech out there, but widen their ass out. And I tell mine, hey, we'll play with smart splits if we're running an inside hitting place. If it's between the tackles, inside zone, zone dive, whatever it is, hey, widen them out, take them to the hash. And if we're running rocket or any perimeter running play, hey, squeeze them down. If they start noticing what we're doing, so be it. Let's either expand or condense the defense and make our job easier.
Absolutely agree with that 100%. All right. Young guys, you got a young guy, you're coming up. What's the first thing you're teaching your young guys, freshman or sophomore? And you guys have spring practice there in Texas, I believe, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in the
we've got
spring,
spring, so
you got freshman or sophomore spring practice starting off. What's the top priority for you for this kid to learn coming out of spring
my
football?
my big 3 our footwork. So we'll be on the boards every day. That's an everyday drill. Get on the boards, go lateral steps or the triple guys, T-board steps, trail steps for outside zone. Just that's one of those things that you have to work and work and work and work every day. That if you don't, you're going to see it's not going to develop on its own. You've got to take steps. You've got to work that. So if I can get a young kid to start taking steps, not stepping over himself, that's something that will, that's a big one for me. So like I said, boards, put the boards under the chute because my next big one is pad level. I want knee benders. I don't want a waist bender kid. And especially with the heavier young kids, they can't bend worth a crap.
Mhm.
Especially now, I don't know what it is about kids, but their posterior's so tight they can't. You've got to really really hone in on it and make it a point of emphasis to work bending, pad level, get them under the chute, playing bent knee football, and then just the speed out of their stance. How fast can they get their first two steps in the ground? Because they know, hey, 1, 2, I'm making contact on 2, so I want to
Mhm.
get my second step in the ground as fast as I can because I've got to initiate contact before this guy hits me. So steps, pad level, and speed out of your stance are my big three, and if you can do those three things effectively, you can probably do pretty well teaching them any sort of zone scheme, gap scheme, pass set, speed out of their stance, whatever that is. If you start teaching the scheme first and you don't develop the technique, it's gonna rear its head and you're gonna
Yeah.
notice it down the road.
Yeah. So you're looking for flat backs. You want to see flat backs coming off the ball. You want low man wins, your eyes under their chin, those type of things for coaching points. You're telling your kids having I'm assuming you got a shoulder width base at least underneath of you as far as trying to maintain that so you can get a good power
Yeah,
stance.
if
Is
you
that
if you can't step out of your stance and you're O-line guy, young kids are always gonna have their feet 6 feet apart. And so like you got to narrow your base a little bit. You got to be able to move out of your stance. And
Mhm.
another thing I'm big on and that I was taught is mental weight. If I'm running inside zone right and I know I've got to zone this guy, I'm playing left guard, I've got a 2-eye. I want to flat step with my right foot, then get vertical with my second step. So I'm going to curl my toes in my left foot and push off and gain ground with
Mhm.
that first step. Uh, that's how I was taught to do it. I'm lucky in that I grew up around football and had really, really good coaches throughout high school and college, and then even going back as a young coach, being able to be around guys that are very successful football coaches. A guy named Keith Myers was my offensive line coach in high school. And then another guy, TJ Gillenhall, he's still currently the offensive line coach at Kilgore. Everything that I do now is kind of a regurgitation of what I learned from those guys. And they're truly masters of their craft and the things that I took away from them have gotten me to where I am today. And I'm forever thankful for those guys. Offensive line play is really a point of emphasis at Kilgore High School over other schools that I've been to or that I know guys that coach at. And we've had a lot of really good offensive linemen come out of Kilgore and and that's strictly from harping on technique, doing the little things right day in and day out, and
Mhm.
just making kids, giving them the best opportunity to be successful just with, tools for the toolbox.
So let's get into that for a second. What's your it's game week? How you breaking down? Obviously, you're gonna go do your scouting stuff, and you're gonna understand what you're gonna catch from the other team, what fronts, what stunts, what blitzes, what coverages, and all that kind of stuff. How does your weekly practice schedule? Do you do the same things every day, each week, or is there skills that you're emphasizing? How do you go about approaching that week prep as you're going into a game week?
I try to keep it as similar week to week as possible, just because kids don't do well with different schedule changes, and try to get them a routine going. But Monday will be a slower day for installing anything, walking through a lot of stuff into different looks, whatever the defense runs. Down here, we see a lot of different fronts, and they'll stem pre-snap, and they'll go from even front, like an over front, to an under front, or they'll go from a like a Okie 4-eye, they'll stack backers. And so these kids have to know zone rules and gap rules into different fronts. So much kids always try to, well, we're running this, so this is what I do on this. Well, no, it's not. Apply your rules. Again, we'll install if we're installing on Monday. The rest just walking through stuff, like I said, into different fronts, run game wise, protection. Then Tuesday, come back and kind of speed it up a little bit. May throw in some movement in there, post snap by the defense. Uh, Start introducing the pressures that we're probably going to see on Friday in BPU and pass settings. Then Wednesday, it's balls to the wall. It's full speed. Hey, I'm sending pressures. We're twisting up front. We're going to stem into different fronts. Let's see how we react and pick things up as a unit. And then Thursday is just a polish day. As I always tell mine, Wednesday we got to be cleaning it up. No cuss Wednesday. So we try to be as close to perfect on Wednesday as possible. And then Thursday, if we go out, screw anything up, it's not going to be good. That's our polish day, our
Yeah.
walkthrough. Just kind of build day to day throughout the week. Monday, keep it simple. There, like I said, if we're installing anything run game wise or protection, get those installed and taught, and make sure the kids have a understanding of what it is that we're doing. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just kind of start speeding up, throwing different stuff at them and fronts and twists and blitzes and all that good stuff that defenses will throw at you. But uh, just kind of like I said, if another big one for me was going back to the teaching young kids is
Right.
understanding, covered, uncovered rules in zone blocking. So that's everything that I do coaching wise as far as zone schemes is based on covered, uncovered rules. And if you understand that, you're pretty much covered in anything you're going to see from a defense. And then once we get zone stuff taught, I'll go gap scheme and specifically front side, have them understand why it's called gap scheme. If you're on the front side and if you're kicking the first thing in or outside of C, the play side inside linebacker is accounted for by either a guard or a fullback. And if you're running power or counter, front side end, same thing. Front side gapping down. We could possibly, if it's a 4 down, if I'm playing tackle and I've got a three technique inside of me, I can work a combo with the guard. Center's back blocking on 2-eye, 2 or a 3. We had a bunch of different variations of that, saying with a backside 3, not putting the center at a disadvantage by choking that or back blocking on the 3. So we would out call it or exchange it, and we'd let the guard base out on the backside 3, pull the tackle or the center, however you wanted to do it. But
Yeah.
just teaching them the intricacies and ins and outs of gap scheme, because there's a lot of different things that you can see, and you'll have to do
Catch it on
different
the
things to
fly.
be able to,
Yeah.
catch it on the fly. Exactly.
What's your tech? Are you doing technique on Mondays and Tuesdays? Is your individual period? Are you doing strictly scheme adjustments and installs? Or are you doing? Is there a set amount of technique drills that you're doing on a Monday and a Tuesday prior to getting into the game plan prep to like skill upkeep, if you will, with your guys?
So I try to keep everything as simple as possible as far as technique and my nomenclature, my terminology, the words I use with my kids. We'll work on the boards. I'll get a guy straddling the board and we'll take zone steps and base block down the board and duck walk. And then we'll work front side gap scheme combos. We'll work choke blocks or back blocks for gap scheme, centers, guards, tackles. And they know our buzzwords for it, or we'll have step, landmark, and technique. So what's my step? Okay, if I'm back blocking on this, I'm a lead step, landmarks near armpit, technique is full bench. So you can say, hey, right tackle, you've got a 3 technique, front side, we're running power to you. What are your steps blocking this 3 technique? And they'll rattle it off. Lead step near armpit, full bench, and surround them with my feet. So they hear it over and over and over and over again, and they learn it, and then it becomes second nature when you get a guy year 2, 3, 4. They can coach. They can the younger guys on it, but
Yeah.
we'll work some sort of technique or a couple of techniques every day. It's a lot, 6, 7, 8 periods of individual to just working steps, combos, base block, whatever it is. Because if you neglect doing it, it's going to show up on Friday. It's one of those things you got to beat them over the head with and do every day and get 1% better at every day.
Are you using any sled work? Are you doing any sled work with your guys?
But yeah, we'll get on the 5 man. So we'll spend, I don't know, 10 minutes every other day on the sled. So I really try to stay off of it as much as I can on Monday. Tuesday, I'll sprinkle some in there in the schedule. But yeah, we're banging on the sled every week, hopefully 2 days a week. And I I don't have one here, but at my previous school, I had a Crowther sled,
Mhm.
and that was something that I always wanted. And our head coach ordered me one, and we worked gallop high leg combos on the Crowther every day. And we used it. We would pull on it, work kickouts, and I love that thing. But I don't have one here. But if I could have one thing at my current school, it would be a pan sled.
Do you do any 6-point progression with your guys?
Yeah, we'll get on the. We don't really do it a whole lot once season gets going. That's more of a
Mhm.
spring,
Yeah.
summer type deal. But just working on coming out of their hips. But yeah, we'll get on whether it be a kid holding the hand shield or on the 5 man, working 2, 4, 6 point explosion. Just bringing your hands, hips, at hands, hips. Just the timing of everything and showing them, okay, well, you got to over accentuate your hips on this. And so we'll do that till they start coming out of their hips, and then we'll progress to a stance and so on and so forth. But yeah, we've got an explosion progression that especially the younger guys will go through.
I think the
Juniors and
I think
seniors are generally pretty good at it.
I think that's important to that 6-point progression teaches those guys how to transfer energy from the ground through up their legs, through their core, out their arms, and into the in this case, the sled or the bag, whatever you're using, that transfer of energy, I think, is something that offensive line guys, the quicker they understand that, the quicker they develop that skill, the better their aptitude to be a great offensive lineman just climbs exponentially, I think, with their understanding on that. And some guys never get this. Some guys could hit that 2 man. We had a 2 man sled, and we would do it on the 2 man sled. They could hit that 2 man sled and it wouldn't move. They could hit it, we'd do 6-point twice, they would do 4-point twice, they do 3-point twice, and then they do a full go. And that sled would move 18 inches. And
Yeah,
I knew at that point, if you can't move that 2 man sled in that 6-point progression, I need to move on. There's nothing until I see you moving that sled 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. We don't have anything to talk about because you're not going to be able to block a dude. Dude's going to be harder to move than the sled. The sled's an inanimate object sitting there staring at you. How are you going to make a guy go in the direction you don't want him to go if he can fight
yeah.
back and apply things on you? All right,
And
coach,
that's
what's
another
your
thing I
go
like
ahead.
with the sled is you get immediate feedback on if that thing spinning. Somebody's kicking somebody's butt. You're not getting any movement. It's turning in a circle. Hey, you're getting whooped, and you can't lie your way out of it and say you're not. So yeah, I'm a big advocate on sled work. That's something that we're going to focus on and do weekly.
What would you say and I think I know the answer to this already. I think you've already said this, but what's your most favorite drill to get your guys to do? Like this is if you got weather coming in, have you guys had a big problem with weather? Or do you guys have a heat
We
bulb
have
indexer?
so Yeah, so heat down here is, as you would imagine, is pretty bad. The trainers, it's really come to fruition the past 5 years or so. A lot of kids have had issues with it around the United States, especially around Texas. So that's kind of heightened the emphasis that trainers put on it. So they have a wet bulb or some
Mhm.
temperature gauge deal. And if it gets over a certain point, you can't take the kids out, or you have to change up your practice and go no pads or have water break every 5 minutes, which turns into a big pain in the ass. Definitely, yeah, something that plays a big role down here is weather, specifically heat, because it'll shoot on the practice field. It'll get to 115 degrees when you got a kid out there in full pads running around for 2 hours. It's going to end up catching up to them, especially during fall camp when you're coming up twice a day. So we really got to stay on the kids about hydrating, especially. It's kind of starting to back off now that we're getting later into October. It's still hot, but like last night, I think it got to 60 or 65 by the fourth quarter, which is substantially cooler than it is previous weeks. It'll stay triple digits till the second half. But yeah,
I
that's
know
that's definitely the thing.
our guys down here had I think we were 4 or 5 games into the season before we had a full week of practice. And I'm not talking about 3 practices. I mean, they were going a week and having 1 hour of practice because of this wet ball breeding, which kinda has just it's, I don't know, maybe 2 years old here in Florida. And I'm it's crazy to me. Everybody in the State's like, "Oh, we gotta protect the kids from the heat." Well, are you worried about them getting hurt on the football field? And I haven't seen a game ever called for a wet ball, and it's as hot as Friday
Yeah.
night as it is any other time. I boggles my mind. But that's for another podcast. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can go for hours about how their kids are getting soft year by year and like the concussion thing, and kids got a headache, they've got to go through concussion protocol. I lost a tackle last week because he told the trainer his head hurt, and to cover her own ass, put him through concussion protocol. So I had to move some guys around. But kids get concussed now more so than any other time in my life, playing or coaching. So kind of same thing goes with the heat.
so I was that led us in. I kind of cut myself off there, but what's the one drill that you're going to do before, weather's coming in, wet bulb's happening. You got 20 minutes of Indy. What are you doing? What's your drill you're going to do?
We're getting under the chute, so we'll drag the boards under the chute. We'll go under the chute, take our steps, then we'll go base blocks or reach blocks under the chute. Uh, and I'll take a period or so on each one of those, so about 10 minutes of chute work with the boards, and then we'll drag the boards out and work base blocks out of the chute, see if it's working, if it translates to their pad level out of the chute. And then my favorite one is just working inside zone combos. You can get a whole lot out of working different looks and zone combos than anything else, and especially seeing if a kid, A, if he'll come off the ball, and B, just working fits and landmarks and steps. And that's, in my opinion, that's probably the best drill you can do to enhance those different techniques and skills as far as steps, landmark technique, as just getting them out, fitting combos. You got to work pass pro in there at some point. I'm as guilty as anybody. I don't really put a huge emphasis on pass pro. We'll work it every day, but if I had 20 minutes to burn, I would work run blocking. So yeah, just steps, pad levels, shoot boards, and then fitting combos.
On your combo, how do you teach your guy coming off at the second level patience?
So we'll do I call it a 4-eye combo. So you got 4 eyes out. So if I'm covered backside, so say I'm the left guard and I call it a combo with my left tackle. If I've got a 3 technique on me, so I'm covered backside, my first step is a jab step. So pick it up, put it down. My second step is going through the 3 techniques crotch, and I'm
Mhm.
fitting his play side breast. And then the tackle knows, hey, I'm uncovered. So 99.9% of the time, my step as the uncovered offensive lineman is a trail step, which is just a 45-degree outside zone step. And so we're taking trail step. Our landmark is via the neck. So he's trying to get midline on the guy in his core, and he's full bench. And then that's going back to keeping things the same. That's something that the kids, they'll hear day in and day out, and they can rattle off to you, hey, you've got this on you. What's your step? What's your landmark? What's your technique? Well, I'm jab step, near armpit, half bench, working that inside hand on it. But uh, so that's uh,
How do you keep that guard on long enough though? What are you telling him before? So he's got backside linebacker flow, right? He's going to come off. You're telling him when you telling that guard to come off that 3 technique. Is the tackle pushing him off? Are they going to stay there? What's his signal to come off and get to that next level and take that linebacker from scraping over?
really depends on how the backer's playing. If he's bossed and he's playing more play side, we can't get as heavy on the combo. But if he's minused a little bit, we can get thicker on the combo. And that just kind of is contingent on how the backer's playing it and how they're fitting. But he's got play side eyes out, and then the tackle will have backside eyes if he backfills and that 3 technique plays over into A gap. But they've got to have eyes out, both of them. And As soon as that backer scrapes and he threatens, you know, our front side gap, hey, you got to come off and this tackle's got to overtake the down. And we'll work off, 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 communicating who's
Yeah,
coming
talking.
off and yeah, just talking so he doesn't bail on the combo and the tackle's screwed because his other half of it's
Yeah, get
going
split.
to block the linebacker. But yeah, and that goes with working combo fits. That's just you
A
can't
feel.
teach it. You have to rep it. Yeah, it's a feel thing, and I mean that's something really an O line guy will understand, and so you get that. But just repping the hell out of that, just scraping linebackers, fitting a three technique. If he spikes and crosses my face, now I've got two hands on, tackles climbing. But I tell mine if I'm the front side guy in a combo and that backer's scraping, as soon as he threatens my play side gap or I feel like he's threatening it, hey, I've got to disengage and come off and account for it. And got to get communicated so your tackle's not, left hanging high and dry. But it's like you said, it's a feel thing and really kind of contingent on how their linebackers are playing it.
Are you are you ever back
And if you can't do that, you can't run the football.
are you ever backside number blocking the linebacker? Do you ever give your guys the green light to, if the linebacker crosses his face and he can still get his hands on him, to take the backside number of the linebacker and just push him and run him across the hole? Is that Do you
Yeah,
add that
so
as an aspect?
we'll do that on gap scheme
Okay.
called a U out block. So I had a kid a couple of years ago that's he's actually a true freshman All American at North Texas, but he was real good at it. He'd let the backer over scrape on the front side of gap scheme, and he'd just kind of slow play and fit that inside shoulder and U it out, and the back would cut off behind it. So if if they can do it, I let them do it. It's something that will work a little bit. But ideally, to say it's a front side combo on gap scheme and they're working a three technique, the backside backer, I like to get movement on the three and take the three to the lap of the backside backer. But if he's just hauling ass and scraping over the top, hey, let him beat you over the top, then fit that inside shoulder and you it out. But some kids can do it, some can't. It goes back to it's a feel thing. Like I said, I've had guys that could do it and do it really well. Then I've had others that they'll never be able to do it,
Can't
But
change direction. Hips don't let open up quick enough.
yeah, their hips are
Yeah.
set after their first step, and they're going to stay on that track the duration of the
Yeah.
place.
But they're a locomotive. They got two rails that they're on and they don't come off.
Yeah, they're not getting off that track.
No. All right, coach. So give me, what's a skill? We'll go with the negative first. What's an over coached skill? Something that like you see coaches talking about, you go to a clinic or whatever, and you hear coaches talking about it. For crying out loud, just give it a rest. Leave, like, why do we keep beating this dead horse? What would
Vertical
that
set,
skill or drill be? What was it?
vertical set in your tackle.
Okay.
I mean, so many we set at 45 degrees. That's
Hmm.
and you're not kick sliding unless he's in your framework. Like if I'm playing right tackle and I've got five technique on me and he's doing his thing, I'm popping up in the chair and I'm waiting on it. I don't need to vertical set and kick slide and get depth like I'm Lane Johnson playing for the Eagles. Just pop up in the chair and wait on. Let him come to you. As long as he's not running at you, he's not going to make the play on the quarterback or anything. So, uh, and I don't think there's any need for a high school kid at most levels to need to vertical set. I don't think any, for the most part, you're not going to see ends or backers that are good enough off the edge to justify doing that. You're not going to see 4.3, 4.4 guys that are 270 pounds running the hoop on you. I don't need to get depth as soon as like 90-degree depth as soon as I get out of my stance. Hopefully not, but that and kids will overset stuff. If if I think I've got to jump set this guy and I end up oversetting and I get on his outside shoulder and I give up inside penetration, you're probably dead in the water. But that's something that I don't coach is vertical sets. We'll just set at 45 degrees at tackle, and then guards and centers are flat sets, just lateral, trying to stay on the same level. But yeah, I think a lot of people, that's kind of the flavor of the week now is to get this huge kick slide at tackle and get depth. And I don't like it. You're condensing the pocket, setting vertical. Why make the dish smaller when I can set it 45 degrees and keep the pocket bigger?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it's something that I watch. I'm watching that technique being taught, and you're watching it happening everywhere. Everybody's doing it, and it's not what I was taught. It's not what I used. It's not what I coached, and it makes my stomach turn because it just doesn't feel right. You got a narrow base underneath you.
Mhm.
You can't in order to go backwards, you got to get narrow. In order to be narrow and be fast to get back, you got to be narrow. And it just it that the other thing that's kind of I just it's hard for me to fight through this belief is the one-handed punch. Like I
Yeah.
see it happening. I know guys are teaching. I know it's happening, but I when I see the one-handed punch, I'm like, if you can punch with one hand, you can punch with two hands. I don't understand why we're only doing with one hand. And people are worried about getting their hands swiped. I said, well, that's what you get into combatives for. Like you get the hand swipe, you got to fight it
Yeah.
back in. They do a rip, you got to, there's counter moves to all that stuff. But
Yeah, you
good
got your
lord,
counter
that's
moves. I'm a two-hand punch guy too. The big thing now is you're longer with one than you are two, but you're also stronger with two than you are one. I get if there's a time and place for it, in my opinion. If you're a tackle, you can get away with the individual punching, individual hands, but I teach two-hand punches, and because then you get into well, a kid's just setting half a man and he's, leaving the play side half free.
hmm
It's like, hey, get down his midline and jam his ass, right down the V of his neck with two hands. So yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm not an individual hands guy. College and NFL guys can get away with it, but it doesn't translate to most high school kids. That's another big one.
what's a so go on the other side of that coin. What's a skill that isn't taught enough that you feel like needs to be harped on a little bit more?
There's a few of them to me. Flat pulling on counter and working a kick out. That's kind of a lost art. You see a lot of guys, they don't work it enough and they'll bow it out and have to log it. I like,
hmm
man, you're working at a negative angle into the line of scrimmage and we're landmarking that inside shoulder and we're forcing a kick out. Hell, we'll kick out a four eye. And then that's just because we'll go backside, front side, and work again, negative angle in the line of scrimmage, and we're scraping paint off that front side push. And I'm fitting that inside shoulder and forcing a kick out. The only time we'll log it is if he's riding that down block hard front side
hmm
and he's down in basically into freaking A gap. We'll log it and bounce. But unless he's doing that, we're going to force a kick out and we're going to stick it up underneath it. And that's one thing that we're going to be good at is
Yeah.
you know
And that's
kick
and when you
outs.
say
That's
negative, you're talking about on their side of the line of scrimmage is where you want contact happening.
yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I don't want to end up in our own backfield or where I started at. I want to end up on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. So that's how I've verbalized it is work at a negative angle. Just it kind of makes sense for the kids, but uh yeah, you've got to work back into the line of scrimmage if you're going to be successful on that. And I always tell them I can always get wider if I have to. I can't move back inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I'd rather get beat outside than inside.
Yes.
So that and really just combo fits. I mean, I've done the gallop high leg stuff on gap scheme. I like it into a three down with my guard and center, working that high leg. If I'm locking the front side tackle and I've got to account for that backside backer with my center guard combo, but if I've got a front side five technique and I've got that front side tackle scraping and he's accounting for that backside backer, then we're going to trail step the guard center combo and we're getting thick on it. I don't want to.
Mhm.
We're not going to work half a man. So, like I said, I went to that last year and had some success at it because I had kids that we rep the crap out of and were good at it. But if it were up to me, we wouldn't gallop and highlight because we would just lead step or trail step and put our head down the middle of his chest and rock. That's another one that I see guys using that on inside zone, and it gets kids pads high when they're gain gather gain with their three steps working into the high leg, and they'll raise up and then they don't get a good fit on the guy, and it's
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a pet peeve of mine is watching bad combo fits, and a lot of guys don't know how to coach a combo. What they're They're just, hey, you two got this guy. It's
Hmm.
well, there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's a pet peeve of mine is misfits on combos. So if you can do a high leg, more power to you. If not, don't try to do it.
Right. Keep it simple.
Keep it
All right, coach.
simple.
This is my last question, and this is my I've asked all my guests this, and this is the fun part for me. I played with a bunch of characters when I was in school, and I think that offensive linemen are across the board the most knuckleheaded, simple-minded, find the humor in anything that you could possibly do. And so, you being a former center and playing in college, I'm sure you had your exposure to those guys. I interviewed a guy a couple
Oh yeah.
episodes ago that he said he was the guy that I'm talking about now. But you have any idea, any stories or guys that you can share that are you know relatively?
Oh, I've got stories, but some of them probably aren't appropriate for this podcast. But it's for some reason it was always the guard. One of the guards that was the slappy of the group. I played with a guy in high school that he was our strong guard. We'd go back to talking about how we flipped the guards, running different stuff. But he was our just a big old nasty 6'2", 330, just a fat, gross. He was a hell of a football player. But his name was John Swanson. He would hang this beach towel off the back of his pants during a game, and that sun gun was about to be dragging the ground, and he'd just run his just talking trash, and he'd come on, hey, we're running the ball right here, stop this MFer, and just a big nasty. And so we were playing a district championship, playing Marshall High School, and at their place. And the offensive line on Thursdays, we would go. This sounds bad, but we would go eat lunch at the Baptist church because they fed homeless people for free. So we would go eat for free, and that sounds horrible, but that's what we did. And
They didn't
we
mind.
all got food poisoning. Yeah, we all got food poisoning the day before, and it really didn't strike until Friday morning. And
Oh,
I had it, he had it, but he had it worse. And they got him over to the stadium early and put him on an IV, getting fluids in him because he was so dehydrated from puking and crapping. And that's not good. I'll be damned if he didn't play the whole game. And we're in the huddle. That's back when you huddle,
yeah,
and he's just doing screaming, and it's like, John, what are you doing, man? He's like, oh, I'm what in my pants right now. So the guy played the whole second half of the game with what in his game pants, and
man. Oh,
I
man.
remember. And since we were on the road, we were wearing white, so it wasn't a good deal. And then just on the way home, our head coach, a guy named Mike Valerie, he's a little Cajun guy. He made him throw his pants in this trash bag on the bus, and that was just looking back, it's hilarious. When it was going on, it was like, man, this isn't good. But that, and played with another guy in college that he looked like John Belushi, and he was another one that was just a big, nasty, gross. Some of the stuff he did, I got more stories than I know what to do with. But like I said, half of them probably aren't appropriate for this. But he was kind of the same caliber of guy, and it's for some reason it's always the guards.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about them, but that just kind of comes with the territory of playing a
yeah.
guard, I guess. But
You
yeah,
mentioned that, and that was I just flashed back to one of our guards. We were up at Delaware playing for homecoming in front of, I don't know, 25,000 people, and Tubby Raymond, one of the architects of the wing T, is the head coach. He's going for his 200th win, and we're up there playing against him, and the left guard says, "Man, I gotta go to the bathroom." Well, the old Delaware stadium, the visitors locker room was across three parking lots of baseball field, intramural athletic fields, and then like the hockey rink on the other side of the. So it wasn't like he could go to the bathroom anywhere. So he just gathered a bunch of us around and peed in a cup and just poured it out right there on the field with six guys gathered around him in front of 20,000 people. I just,
yeah,
goodness gracious, Howard, what are you doing?
I played with a
So
guy that would piss his pants during a game. I don't know, he'd have to take a leak, and
yeah,
it's he was a
there's
guard.
a there's one
Coaching
on every
with it.
team,
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go in my pants." It's you're nasty, man, but,
one
uh,
on every team.
yeah, it's O-line guys are a different breed, man. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. I love the kids I coach. just blue collar kids and your typical fat kid. And you get it. You got to be a line guy to understand it, but they're the best dudes on the team.
And they'll be there to help you move.
Selfless.
If you ever need to move your house, they're there to help you in a heartbeat.
You say that we just moved into a rental house about a month and a half ago, and I had four of mine come basically unload the whole truck and move us in. And every move that we've made the past 11 years, I've had O-line kids come move us in. And uh, you're a big guy. Everybody treats you like a small truck, and it's time to move. Hey, we need some furniture moved, but so you just bribe them with some pizza, and
Yep.
you can get them to do anything for you.
Free Gatorade and pizza, and it's done. It's a done deal.
That's right.
So
Yep, you don't
that's
have to
awesome.
say no more.
Well, Colby, tell me, you mentioned earlier when we were talking off before we started here that you had a master class option that you were talking about. Tell me a little bit about that, so anybody that's listening can get more of
Yeah.
your
So
wisdom and knowledge.
if you guys have a coach tube, I think it's still active. It's a counter masterclass. It's just how I install gap scheme runs, rule wise, blocking scheme, and then different variations of counter, whether that be GT, GH, GY, CT, just the million different ways you can run it, then RPOs off of it. And there's a bunch of game film from when I was at Kilgore, and we were probably 70% gap scheme runs, and then the other 30 was inside zone, but we were heavy counter, and we did it a million different ways out of a million different formations. And the kids they can freaking run it with the best of them. So it kind of goes the ins and outs of gap runs and just the different ways you can do them. And then uh, I spoke at the DFW O-line clinic last year in Prosper, and went over our gap run game and RPOs and that too. And it's out there somewhere on YouTube. I listened to it once, and the guy gave me the link for it, and he said it's available for people. I don't know how to get to it, but it's out there somewhere.
I'll do
Yeah,
some
I've got
research,
some
and
stuff.
I was say I'll do some research, and I'll include anything in links here as we post it and get it up there for anybody that's interested. They can go take a look at it and get some more information from it.
Yeah, and I'll get back on Coach Tube and see if it's. I know it was active for a time. I guess it still is. I don't know if it's got a shelf life or not. If I got to get on there and do anything, but yeah, if you wanna learn all the different ways you can run counter, get on there and
That's
listen to it.
that's a good one-stop shop, right? Well, Colby, I appreciate you
Yeah,
taking time out of your schedule, and I know your season's winding down here, and I appreciate you taking time today and making time for us. And I love talking offensive line stuff. I love learning from you today, and thank you very much for being here.
absolutely, coach. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me on here.
Fantastic. And remember, if you master the trich, you win the battle.
Dang right.
Hope you're enjoying Trenchometry. Assuming that you are, please hit that like button and subscribe. Remember, master the trench, you win the war.